The following program contains shocking expressions of free speech. If you suffer from being tongue-tied, ankylosing, Randall might not be right for you. Check with your romper room teacher.
We're going to have a great show.
Standing for truth in the four corners of America. Fighting for justice on the frontiers of the culture wars. And turning resistance into an art form. Randall Terry.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry, the world's gone crazy, but Vladimir Putin and I are going to work the whole thing out. And by the way, what do Putin, Obama, Pelosi, and Jeb Bush all have in common? Yes, they're going to be guests on my show today. Private interviews, exclusive interviews done by me with each of them. Here's a word from the doctor. I'll be right back.
When I heard that the NSA was spying on people, it didn't surprise me one bit. The blistering idiots at the other NSA have been spying on me for years to steal my discoveries. You ask, what other NSA? Why, the Neutron Star Association, of course. I have discovered more pulsars than they will ever discover. More than they will ever discover.
Welcome to the program, friend. We have a lot of ground to cover today. I hope that you stay with me through the whole program. All right, let's start with the ongoing Snowden scandal. Now, of course, the scandal is that the federal government has been spying on hundreds of millions of Americans without their knowledge and their consent, in clear violation of the Bill of Rights for probably years now. The computer giants Apple, over the weekend, said that 4 to 5 surveillance requests have been made from them or to them about their customers since December. All right, so that's average about 800 a month. Facebook said that in the second half of 2012, they had 9,000 to 10,000 requests from the government, and it covered between 18,000 and 19,000 of their users' accounts. Microsoft said it received between 6,000 and 7,000 criminal and national security requests affecting 31,000 to 32,000 customer accounts. Are we to believe that there are 32,000 terrorists that are under surveillance right now from the federal government? It's possible. It's not likely, but it's possible. But I was thinking, why in the world would the government have kept issuing these requests when they already have hacked into the pipelines of every single one of these internet giants? The reason is simple. They had to keep the cover going. They had to still make it look like they needed the data, that they had to request the data, right? If the federal government suddenly just stopped making all of these requests to Apple and to Facebook and to Microsoft, then they would have said, picked up the phone, hey, Apple, have you got any requests lately? No, me neither. Isn't that weird? I wonder why. The giant, Google, the 900-pound gorilla in the room, they have not yet disclosed how many requests have been made of them. I want to backtrack for a minute. And remember, we've got a lot coming up, but I want to spend just a couple minutes on this, then move on to other topics. The Obama administration right now is in the process of doing what is Politics 101, namely thrashing Edward Snowden, all right? They're going to try and make him look like a traitor. They're going to say he's a threat to national security, etc., ad nauseum. Snowden is not the issue, okay? Whether he went to Hong Kong, because it was a political safe haven, whether he ends up going to Iceland, whether he takes up the offer from Putin and Russia to go there. That's not the issue. Let's just assume for the record that Snowden is a dirtbag, okay? Just a dirtbag. A broken clock is right twice a day. There have been some good things done by some bad people at key moments in history. Like, go say, the Good Samaritan. Maybe he was a bad guy. Certainly was a heretic theologically. He was a Samaritan, hello? But he saved the man's life. And if liberty is restored in this country, and if this monstrous spying mechanism is in fact pushed back, which is doubtful at this point, it will be to a large degree because of the disclosures that Edward Snowden made regarding the federal government spying on all of us. And by way of, can I go to this camera one more time, please? All right, thank you. By way of comedy, the China Morning News, I believe it's the English-speaking paper there in Hong Kong, has finally come on the record. China is demanding an explanation from the U.S. government regarding the fact that Americans have been spying on China, people throughout Europe. As you probably know, the international reaction to what the U.S. government has done is absolute horror and disgust and outrage. And so they released a poll that said 98% of the citizens of Hong Kong do not think that Snowden should be extradited. That means that the deal is done, all right? If the government does move to extradite him, there is every likelihood that the folks in Beijing would say to Hong Kong, you don't have to extradite him. We'll see what happens. We'll keep following this as the days unfold. But the worst thing that could happen, the worst thing, is that this goes away quietly into the night. If there is not continued outrage, public pressure, if we start to get distracted by immigration or some other little pet hobby horse, then our liberties will continue to be crushed under the heels of tyrants, and the republic as we knew it will die. It's just that simple. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, I will focus on the #1 news story for the last 10 years and how Nancy Pelosi fits into that. Have you ever noticed that there's a striking resemblance between her and the Wicked Witch of the West? Look at those photos. Look, see for yourself. She is scary. Every day in America, over 3,500 babies are torn apart by abortion. Shouldn't all babies, like this living, unborn child, have the right to life? Baby killing will only end when Americans see the truth of what abortion does to innocent children. You can help end this Holocaust by showing the truth of abortion in your area with a Face the Truth tour. Go to facethetruthamerica.com to set up a Face the Truth tour in your area. The babies and their mothers will be eternally grateful. In the 1980s, banks introduced designer checks. When my buddy George Johnson inquired at the bank, they had nothing for pro-lifers. So the Johnsons created beautiful pro-life bank checks showing babies with a strong pro-life message. You can speak out for life with every check you write, whether personal or business checks. Be a voice for babies with these pro-life checks. Go to prolifecheckguy.com to see more. That's prolifecheckguy.com. Hi friend, I'm Randall Terry. George Washington said, "Few men have virtue to withstand the highest bidder." Welcome back to the program, friend. As I said before I left you, the biggest news story of the last 10 years, probably the last 40 years, is the brutal and deliberate dismembering, burning, hacking to death of innocent human beings. Of course, I'm speaking of the abortion Holocaust. Recently, Kermit Gosnell, the child killer in Philadelphia, made headlines for a little while because of his unthinkable, brutal, disgusting, barbaric practices. We've covered them in detail on this show. If you want to see some of those programs, go to our archives at voiceofresistance.com for an in-depth look at what Gosnell was doing. Well, Nancy Pelosi was recently asked by a reporter from the Weekly Standard, John McCormick, and who wanted to know what's the moral difference between what Gosnell did and killing a baby at that gestation as long as he's killed in the womb. Listen to the question and Pelosi's response.
So the question I have for you is, what is the moral difference between what Dr. Gosnell did to a baby born alive at 23 weeks and aborting her moments before birth? What's the difference?
You're probably enjoying that question a lot. I can see you savoring it. But let me just tell you this. Let me just tell you this. What was done in Philadelphia was reprehensible, and everybody condemned it. For them to decide to disrespect a judgment a woman makes about her reproductive health is reprehensible.
Now, are you with me still? What Gosnell did was reprehensible, but to try and take away a woman's right to kill her baby, and I say the word right in quotes because it is not a right to kill your offspring, that's reprehensible. She doesn't even have the decency, or perhaps the intelligence, to use a different adjective. Why is what Gosnell did reprehensible? I ask you. What he did was he tried to kill the baby in the womb, all right? That would not be reprehensible to Nancy Pelosi. And because the baby survived, and then he killed the baby, and a post-abortion abortion, that's reprehensible. She tried to dodge and weave, and he came back around to it. And he said, no, basically, what I'm asking you is, what is the ethical difference of him killing a baby outside the womb at 23 weeks, or what the abortionist in Maryland is doing? Cartnell was his name? Carhart, thank you, Carhart. Where he's killing babies at 27, 28 weeks in the womb, all right? 27, 28-week babies are completely viable. That means they can live outside the womb on their own. But he's succeeding. He's making sure that they're dead before they come out. So he said, what's the difference morally? Here's her response.
You obviously have an agenda. You're not interested in having an answer. But I have responded to you to the extent that I'm going to respond to you, because I want to tell you something. As a mother of 5 children, my oldest child is 6 years old the day I brought my 5th child home from the hospital. As a practicing and respectful Catholic, this is sacred ground to me when we talk about this. I don't think it should have anything to do with politics.
Now, the fact that she brings her own children into this, you know, as a mother of 5 and as a practicing Catholic, that this is sacred ground. Do you understand what the sacred ground was? The sacred ground is for her that you have a right to kill your baby. This should have nothing to do with politics. I am a practicing Catholic. Whoa, Nancy. The Catholic Church teaches that abortion is murder, okay? The scriptures, the Holy Bible teach that abortion is murder. If murder is not a political issue, if murder, mass murder, by the way, is not a public policy issue, a legal issue, something that cries to be in the political debate, then nothing is. So for her to say that it is sacred ground to be able to murder a baby shows something so demonic, because when you use the word sacred, you imply the divine, you imply the religious. What God is she serving? Is this Molech? Is this Satan himself? There's something so demonic. And by the way, I am saying for the record that on this point of the murder of the innocent, Nancy Pelosi is doing the devil's work. She is an aid to the satanic in the shedding of innocent blood, to Satan himself. All right? The Bible says that the devil, the thief, comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. These babies' lives are being stolen. They're being brutally murdered. They're being destroyed. This is satanic. She is in league with Satan on this point. That quote will stay around for a while, and I'm happy to own it. If you don't believe in the devil, look around you, by the way. But I want to finish with this point. I know, Lane, that we're out of time, but I've got to make one more point. God, please, I don't mean to be disrespectful. God have mercy on the American Catholic bishops. On the bishops that have an ethical and a church hierarchy duty to deal with this woman publicly. God forgive them. Here she is making a mockery of the Catholic Church and the Catholic faith. And the bishops that have the authority and the ethical responsibility and the duty to deal with her are silent. It is a scandal of epic proportions. And they let her keep receiving communion. It's abominable. It's sickening. And I submit to you, dear Christian friend, that the two top reasons the child killing in this country continues unabated and is more entrenched than ever is because, number one, of the failure of the Catholic hierarchy to make this their number one political, ethical, moral, and religious cause. And number two, the number two reason it exists is because evangelical superstars, pastors of huge churches, the leaders of various evangelical denominations, they too have said, we'll pay lip service to this, but we're not going to risk our tax-exempt status. We're not going to get embroiled in a public free-for-all over the murder of the innocent. We're just going to go on our merry little way. If the Christian leadership of this country were to say, we will no longer passively and politely coexist with the brutal murder of innocent human beings, we would have ground this thing to a halt decades ago. The single greatest reason that child killing continues in this country is the failure of Christian leaders to deal with it. I've got to take a quick break. Around the corner, Jeb Bush. Open the mouth, insert the foot.
Moments with Moses. If you chance to come upon a bird's nest in any tree or on the ground, with young ones or eggs, and the mother sitting upon the young or upon the eggs, you shall not take the mother with the young.
Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes, and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution, and there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. We will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today. My wife and I, for 5 years, have been grinding our own wheat and baking our own bread from scratch. Within 2 hours, you can have fresh wheat in your hand and then piping hot bread come out of the oven. The most nutritious and delicious bread you will ever have. And we do it for under $1 a loaf. Call Paula's Bread and find out about this grain mill and the mixer and how it can save you money and change your life. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the quote you wish you hadn't said, starring Jeb Bush.
Immigrants create far more businesses than native-born Americans over the last 20 years. Immigrants are more fertile, and they love families, and they have more intact families, and they bring a younger population.
Did you hear what he said? Fertile. Yeah, them foreigners are fertile. You need a bunch of kids running around, you got to import yourself some foreigners. They're fertile. Why, of all the words, why didn't someone vet that speech? They're fertile? Really? No, they don't. The Hispanic culture, which is who predominantly involves illegal immigrants, they're really not in favor of child killing. They don't abort their babies. They're not in favor of birth control. They think large families are a blessing. I mean, at least they could have given an accurate rendition of why they have more children. They're more fertile. Them American women ain't so fertile anymore. They're eating them genetically modified corn chips and stuff. I mean, it makes a girl infertile. Everyone knows this. All right, now let's play a second clip on immigration.
The one way that we can rebuild the demographic pyramid is to fix a broken immigration system, to allow for people to come, to learn English, to play by our rules, to embrace our values, and to pursue their dreams in our country with a vengeance to create more opportunities for all of us. This is a conservative idea. And if we do this, we will rebuild our country in a way that will allow us to grow. If we don't do it, we will be in decline because the productivity of this country is dependent upon young people that are equipped to be able to work hard.
All right, I don't have a lot of time to discuss this, but did you notice the deafening silence in the room? I think this was the Faith and Freedom, what was it? Yeah, Faith and Freedom Coalition's Road to Majority. This is a conservative issue. No one's clapping. It's really silent in here. Maybe it's not so conservative. I will talk in the coming shows about immigration reform. But friend, it's a political football whose time has not yet come. They're here. They're near. We've gotten used to it, dear. I'll be right back to talk about Putin in Syria and the fact that the U.S. is now going to arm the people that want to destroy the U.S. Slap my grandma. Do you want to have knowledge, wisdom, discernment? If so, you have to read good books, theology, history, books that look at the lives of great men and women. So to help you to become a more effective Christian, a better witness for truth, somebody who can engage in productive conversation that exhorts and edifies those that you speak with, we're going to do something crazy. We're offering you these 7 books for a gift of any size. You just pay for the shipping and handling, and then give whatever gift that you can, and we will send them to you. But just to make it a little bit more crazy, I will send you a second copy of my 3 books, autographed. You can give them as a gift to your pastor or to a family member and help extend truth and justice in the world. This is while supplies last. Welcome back to the program, friend. Russian President Vladimir Putin is trying to do everything in his power to keep the Assad government in Syria on its feet. All right? Syria is the only foothold that Russia has in the Middle East. Syria is a huge customer for Russian arms. You can see pictures of Russian tanks being used by the government. Putin said, "You will not deny that one does not really need to support the people who not only kill their enemies, but open up their bodies, eat their intestines in front of the public and cameras. Are these the people you want to support? Is it them you want to supply with weapons?" Now, for a world leader to talk about cannibalism shows, number one, that he is really playing to public opinion. He's saying something so outrageous that it gets everyone's attention, and he's painting it in very stark images. We, as Americans, could take maybe one step back from cannibalism. And by the way, this stuff is out there, okay? What he said is actually true. The simple fact of the matter is the U.S., Great Britain, everyone acknowledges if we give arms to the rebels, which now the U.S. government is committed to do, we're going to have another proxy war like we had in Vietnam. The Russians supporting the Syrian government, we're supporting the rebels, North and South Vietnam. But more importantly, perhaps for our own national security, is we're arming the people who are terrorists, who have it in for us. And what do you think they're going to do with those weapons when they get them? I don't know. I don't know. They won't use them against us.